Hey Commanders fans, welcome back to Commanders HQ, where we break down everything happening inside Ashburn like true insiders. Before we dive into today's story, let's take a second to appreciate what this team is doing. You can feel it. The Washington Commanders are getting better, week by week, learning, improving, and building something that feels real. The culture is changing under Dan Quinn, and the results are starting to show. If you're proud of this team's fight and love seeing them prove people wrong, make sure to hit that like button because today's story is one you'll want to stick around for until the end. Finally, some good news for Commanders fans who've been waiting to see number 17 back on the field. Head coach Dan Quinn says he's optimistic that Terry McLaurin could make his return for Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. The Commanders avoided putting McLaurin on injured reserve, a sign they believed his setback wasn't long-term. He missed the Chargers game, but according to a report from J.P. Finley, Quinn told reporters that the extra day never hurts and that the staff will monitor both McLaurin and Noah Brown closely in practice this week. McLaurin's absence has been felt. Through the first few games of the season, he's caught just 10 passes for 149 yards, no touchdowns yet. And you can tell he's hungry to flip that script fast once he returns. Now, what's interesting is how Deebo Samuel has stepped into that WR1 role in McLaurin's absence. Deebo's been electric. 30 catches, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But defenses are already starting to key in on Deebo. And that's exactly where McLaurin's return becomes huge. When Terry's back, teams won't be able to double Deebo on every third down. That spacing, that trust between McLaurin and Jayden Daniels, it could open up this entire passing attack in a big way. Speaking of Jayden Daniels, how about that performance in Los Angeles? Coming off a knee injury, back home in California, and under the bright lights, that's the kind of game that tells you everything you need to know about a young quarterback. Daniels admitted after the game, "It means a lot. First game back to be in my hometown. You can't write a better story. I dreamt of moments like this." And his head coach couldn't stop praising him. Dan Quinn said he just has an X factor about him. On third and fourth downs, he can create and make plays. He showed poise, made smart decisions, and didn't force things. That's growth. That's leadership. The Commanders fell behind early, down 10-0 after missed tackles and costly penalties. In the past, that might have been the breaking point, but not this time. Daniels settled in, found his rhythm, and the Commanders responded with 27 unanswered points to beat the Chargers on the road. That's resilience. That's Dan Quinn's DNA spreading through this locker room. While Daniel stole the spotlight on offense, the real unsung hero came on the other side of the ball, defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw. Remember when people laughed at the Commanders for giving him a 3-year, $45 million contract with $30 million guaranteed? Those critics are awfully quiet right now. Kinlaw was relentless against the Chargers. The stats might only show 4 tackles, but the tape tells a completely different story. Double-teamed, chipped, and still causing chaos in the backfield, he was the engine that made this defense go. Analyst Mark Bullock summed it up perfectly. Kinlaw's play might not always show up on the stat sheet, but his presence inside has been huge for Washington. And he's right, because when Kinlaw commands double teams, it frees up the edges. It gives Durance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, and Frankie Louvu those lanes to crash down on quarterbacks. That's how the Commanders ended up with 5 sacks on Justin Herbert and forced the Chargers' offense to stall out for over 3 quarters. Kinlaw's physicality also helped shut down Chargers rookie Omarion Hampton, who just a week earlier torched the Giants for 128 yards. Against Washington, just 3.7 yards per carry before leaving the game banged up. This is the version of Kinlaw that Washington believed in. This is the version that's changing perceptions league-wide. One of the biggest changes Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. brought to Washington is accountability, and you can see it. When they named Javon Kinlaw a defensive captain for Week 5, it wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was recognition. Recognition of a guy who's done everything right since stepping into Ashburn. He's battled through adversity, earned his reps, and become one of the emotional leaders in that defensive line room. Witt described him earlier this year as a penetrative, disruptive man, and that's exactly what he's been. Let's not forget, this defensive front was a huge question mark after losing Dietrich Wise for the season and dealing with injuries to younger players like Jelante Baptiste. But instead of crumbling, they regrouped. Veterans like Kinlaw and Preston Smith, back for his second stint in Washington, have kept this group locked in. It's not perfect. The secondary still gives up too many chunk plays, and coverage linebackers like Kane Madrono haven't gotten much of a chance yet. But the attitude is different. There's energy, there's trust, and there's belief in the system. Now all eyes turn to Monday Night Football at FedEx Field. The Bears might not look like world beaters on paper, but this is a dangerous team if you let them hang around. And for Washington, this is the kind of game that can set the tone for the middle stretch of the season. If McLaurin and Noah Brown return, that gives Jayden Daniels his full arsenal. Deebo Samuel, McLaurin, Brown, rookie Luke McCaffrey, and tight end Ben Sinnott. That is a versatile, explosive group when healthy. But perhaps more importantly, this is a chance for the Commanders to keep proving they're not the same old Washington. They've taken punches this season. Injuries, adversity, critics, and they've responded with grit and growth. Dan Quinn summed it up after the Chargers win. The plays that don't show up on the stat sheet are often the ones that define who we are as a team. That's the mentality of a team on the rise. The Commanders are now 3-2, coming off their first road win of the season against the Los Angeles Chargers. That alone is big. The sky was falling heading into Week 5, the team was battling injuries, and the noise outside was getting louder. But then, Jayden Daniels came back, the defense finally showed signs of life, and Washington left LA with a convincing 27-10 win. Still, the biggest story wasn't about the offense. It wasn't even about Daniels' return. It was about a veteran cornerback who's been criticized nonstop since Week 1, and on Sunday, he flipped the script. Let's be honest. Marshon Lattimore's first month in Washington couldn't have gone much worse. After being traded in the offseason to solidify the secondary, Lattimore looked out of sync, frustrated, and to put it bluntly, targeted. Opposing quarterbacks were picking on him. Through the first 4 games, he gave up 11 catches on 20 targets, 173 yards, and 9 first downs. Every week, fans were asking the same question: what happened to Marshon Lattimore?
The coverage busts were piling up, and every big play seemed to happen right where number 23 was lined up. Analysts began questioning if he lost a step. Some even suggested that the Commanders should cut their losses and bench him. And to make things worse, the Commanders' defense was bleeding explosive plays, the kind that shift momentum, kill confidence, and spark finger-pointing. But Sunday was different. Facing Justin Herbert, one of the league's most efficient passers, and Quentin Johnston, who entered Week 5 ranked 3rd in receiving yards, Lattimore had every reason to be nervous. Instead, he delivered his best performance in a Washington uniform. According to Next Gen Stats, Lattimore allowed just 1 catch for 6 yards on 41 coverage snaps. That's elite-level football, and a complete turnaround from everything we'd seen through the first month. He wasn't just locking down his side, he was setting a tone. The moment that symbolized his comeback came when he recovered a fumble forced by safety Quan Martin, flipping momentum and giving Washington control of the game. That single play was the spark the defense needed, and from that point forward, the Chargers' passing attack was done. No more big plays, no more open seams, no more uh-oh moments in coverage. And for a guy who's been dealing with more criticism than praise since arriving in D.C., this was personal. After the game, head coach Dan Quinn was asked directly about Lattimore's performance, and his answer said everything you need to know about how the staff use him. I thought, just right from the beginning, Lattimore, was involved in the whole thing. The technique was on point. The fumble recovery, the way he handled his assignments. This is a really talented passing offense, and we knew we'd have our work cut out for us. You could tell our defensive backs put in the extra work this week. That's the part fans don't always see, the grind that happens in the building. According to team sources, Lattimore spent extra hours with defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. this week, going over tape, adjusting his press technique, and improving his reads and zone coverage. The payoff? A complete turnaround against one of the NFL's top passing attacks. The Commanders held Herbert to just 166 yards passing, his lowest total of the season, and it wasn't just luck, it was discipline. It was communication, and yes, it was Lattimore finally playing like the 4-time Pro Bowler Washington thought they were getting. For weeks, the Commanders' defense has been criticized, and rightfully so. Big plays, missed tackles, miscommunication. But in LA, something clicked. Alongside Lattimore, Quan Martin and Mike Seinristel played arguably their best games of the year. The safeties tightened their coverage over the top, linebackers executed zone drops more cleanly, and the pass rush, led by Javon Kinlaw and Frankie Louvu, did their job collapsing the pocket. This was the formula Dan Quinn has been preaching since day one. Pressure plus precision equals results. If Lattimore, Martin, and Sainristil can replicate that effort, this defense suddenly goes from liability to weapon. And with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze next week when the Commanders face the Bears, they'll need every bit of that focus again. Let's be clear, this wasn't just another bounce-back win. This was a message. The Commanders didn't just survive, they responded. After 2 rough road losses, they fixed what was broken, and the players who were being doubted the most stepped up the biggest. Jayden Daniels played smart, the defense showed pride, and Marshon Lattimore, the guy everyone counted out, became the difference maker. And look, it's still early. The season's long. But this is exactly the kind of turning point that can define a year. If Lattimore's confidence is back, if the communication in the secondary holds, this defense could start looking like the one Dan Quinn envisioned when he took this job. So here's the big takeaway, Commanders fans. This team is learning how to win the right way. They've got a rookie quarterback who plays with confidence and composure, a coach who's changing the culture one game at a time, a defense anchored by players like Javon Kinlaw who refuse to back down, and hopefully the heartbeat of the offense, Terry McLaurin, coming back right when they need him most. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Will McLaurin's return push this offense to another level? And are you buying into what Javon Kinlaw is doing for this defense? Drop your thoughts down below. I read every single one of them, and your opinions fuel this community. And hey, if you believe in what this team is building, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Commanders HQ, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from Ashburn. Because one thing's for sure, this season, the Washington Commanders are writing a brand new story, and you, the fans, are a part of it.